South Africa's diplomatic relationship with the United States is under growing strain tonight, and at the center of it all is a key vacancy that remains unfilled. The position of South Africa's ambassador to Washington has now been empty for nearly a year, and pressure is mounting on President Cyril Ramaphosa to act. The urgency is not just political, it's economic, it's strategic, and according to some leaders, it's beginning to affect South Africa's global influence. Calls for immediate action intensified this week during a parliamentary debate where Build One South Africa leader Mmusi Maimane delivered a direct message. South Africa, he said, cannot afford to wait any longer. Every day without an ambassador weakens our influence and interests, Maimane argued, urging the president to appoint a qualified envoy without delay. Here's why this matters. The United States remains one of South Africa's most important trade and investment partners, from exports to foreign investment to diplomatic cooperation. The relationship plays a critical role in the country's economic future. But without a permanent ambassador in Washington, that relationship risks losing momentum and possibly influence. The vacancy dates back to a major diplomatic fallout. Former Ambassador Abraham Rasool was expelled and declared persona non grata by the administration of former U.S. President Donald Trump. That move created a diplomatic gap that has yet to be fully resolved. Since then, efforts to stabilize the situation have faced repeated challenges. One attempt involved the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas as a special envoy to the United States, but that solution quickly ran into trouble. The U.S. administration declined to grant Jonas a diplomatic visa, citing past remarks in which he had been critical of Donald Trump. As a result, the ambassadorial position remained vacant, and South Africa's diplomatic presence in Washington continued without a formal representative. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola has confirmed that the president is still considering a candidate, but so far, no final decision has been announced. That delay is now becoming a growing concern in political circles. Opposition voices argue that the absence of an ambassador is not just symbolic, it has real consequences. Trade negotiations may stall, investment opportunities may be missed, and diplomatic communication becomes less direct. Here's what that means for South Africans. At a time when the country is seeking economic growth, job creation, and foreign investment, having strong representation in key global capitals is essential, especially in Washington, because diplomacy is not just about formal meetings, it's about building relationships, influencing decisions, and ensuring that a country's interests are actively defended. Meanwhile, developments on the U.S. side are adding further complexity. U.S. Ambassador-designate to South Africa, Leo Brent Bosel III, has begun the process of taking up his role. However, he has not yet formally presented his credentials to President Ramaphosa, and that matters, because until that formal step is completed, his role is not fully recognized within diplomatic protocol. The ANC has made its position clear. ANC Deputy Secretary General Momvula Mokonyane says the party will not formally engage with Bosel until he is officially received by the president. Without that process, she said, any engagement would be informal and would add no value. That stance reflects the importance of diplomatic procedures, rules that govern how countries interact and recognize each other's representatives. But tensions have gone beyond protocol. Bosel recently sparked controversy after making remarks about the controversial "Kill the Boer" chant during a meeting with business leaders. He reportedly described it as hate speech, a statement that drew a strong reaction from South African authorities. Minister Lamola responded by formally calling in Bosel to explain his comments, describing them as inconsistent with diplomatic etiquette. etiquette. This type of move, known as a diplomatic démarche, signals official concern and dissatisfaction, and it highlights the delicate nature of the relationship at this moment. Experts say these developments point to a broader challenge. South Africa must balance its domestic political debates with its international diplomatic responsibilities, because in global diplomacy, words matter, actions matter, and representation matters. There are also reports that former ambassador to Bulgaria, Thabo Thage, may take on a leadership role within the mission in the United States, but for now, that remains a temporary arrangement. The bigger question remains unanswered. Who will be South Africa's next ambassador to the United States, and when will that appointment be made? As pressure builds, the decision facing President Ramaphosa is becoming more urgent. It is not just about filling a vacancy, it is about restoring confidence, strengthening relationships, and ensuring that South Africa's voice is heard on one of the world's most important diplomatic stages. Because in today's interconnected world, diplomacy is not optional, it is essential. And as this story continues to develop, South Africans will be watching closely to see how and when their government responds.